One of the good things I'd like to interject, guys, that we left out, that our city should be proud of. The Pinelands did say that we were a role model community in the Pinelands, and we have played by the rules since day one. We're very happy with what we've been doing all along. That's gonna make it a little more simpler for us to be able to finalize with what we're doing. We haven't been trying to pull anything over their eyes, so to speak. We have played by all the rules. We spent a fortune. Nearly all that money has been state grant money that we have spent, but nonetheless, we have taken every measurable task to complete this project without, basically without error. And they're happy with what we've been doing. They want to get rid of this as well. They know that this is just more of a nuisance with their paperwork and their filing. They have bigger sites that are very, very deadly that they have to focus on. You know, they recognize Estell Manor is not one of them sites, which, by the way, if anybody, for historical purposes, there are 19,000 and some odd contaminated sites in the state of New Jersey. Estell Manor ranks 17th from the bottom of that ladder. We are 17th from the bottom of that ladder. That is so incredible, and I think that's also, I've been hammering that with the Pinelands for a number of years. Just now finally getting it. We have to focus on the very contaminated sites. Estell Manor is not polluting the environment. There's always going to be some minor issues that we'll just simply monitor, but it also was said, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, trying to put a cap on that landfill now is completely pointless for the fact that it's been closed since 1990. It's been raining on it all this time. Whatever could have been in there, if in fact there was anything that was volatile, it's already leaked out. So there's no way to try to recapture what's happened. We just simply, that's what part of this study that we've been doing is amounted to. Just trying to make sure that there has been no contamination to the environment. But as it appears right now, there really isn't. Nothing that's worth mentioning or measurable.
Mr. Dye, with the two questions that I asked you, one about the Pinelands memo and two about any grant funding refund that we could get, could you email me with those responses, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have some comments and questions.
Is that Nelson?
So, Mr. Dyke,
Last
last February, when the mayor and I sat down with you and Mr. Wingrowski, we represented the entire composition of the landfill committee for the city of Estell Manor. On that day, yours was a far more somber composure. You were not presenting these facts and this suggested course of action nearly as casually as you presented it tonight, and you didn't have nearly the confidence in a positive outcome on that day that you have today. Further, Mr. Wingrowski, though he didn't have a final report with him, he did have a draft. And item 8, where the Pinelands outlines that it was reported to them by, I believe, your firm, that the field data was inaccurate and undependable, unreliable. They went on to say that they're only going to rely on the field data that's been reported to them since 2017 and simply disregard everything up until then, from 2007 on, from the period starting when we expanded from 4 monitoring wells to 13. Fast forward further, what you said and the spirit of that meeting had so much gravitas that at the conclusion of the meeting, the mayor told me to not speak with anyone about the content of the meeting, not even my fellow members of council. So I don't want anyone to think this evening that this has been kind of a light matter of business from the beginning. In fact, a year ago, when we had that meeting and started down this abbreviated road that we're on now, in fact, my time in this matter, this was a very serious matter. About 3 weeks ago, you called me and said that at the suggestion of the mayor, you were calling because you wanted to have a 3-way teleconference with me and the mayor and asked when was convenient for me to have that call. And I told you I'm pretty much free anytime. Just let me know when it's going to happen. Did you try to get back to me with a time and date for that call? Did I miss something?
I did not.
Did you get back to me to tell me that I was excluded from the call?
I did not know that you were excluded from any calls.
Why didn't you get back? You said you were going to get back to me. Why didn't you get back to me?
I had the solicitor handle it instead.
I'm not talking to you, Mayor.
Well, you're asking a question, I'm
I'm
giving
not
an answer.
talking to you, Mayor, I'm talking
I
to
prefer
Mr.
to have Randy handle the matter.
The mayor asked
Why
me,
didn't you get back to me?
the mayor asked me to call you, and then I said, do you want to have the three-way call with Councilman Dilge? And the mayor said, no, let's just go ahead and have the public meeting, and then he called me about getting together with the solicitor.
So why didn't you tell me that I wasn't, there's no sense waiting for the call. I mean, I'm still waiting for the call until I found out that the call happened without me.
I mean, it was.
I mean, this is all very surprising to me. Understand that there was severe gravitas at the conclusion of our meeting a year ago.
Okay.
No one said anything
this
about
is
it
a
until I
very
brought it up a month
serious
ago. And
matter.
a month ago, this was so serious to the mayor, he wanted to sue you for engineering malpractice.
Oh, Nelson, why don't you just?
So what changed?
Your hair's on fire at all.
What changed?
Well, nothing's changed between, I don't know what you mean by the seriousness of the meeting. It's a very serious matter because it's serious work that needs to be done. But I'm not sure anything changed. I thought the meeting that we had in last February in Estell Manor with Ed was very positive and in the good direction. I didn't think there was any, cloak and daggerness to it.
Well, why then, Mayor, did you tell me to keep quiet about it and not even share it with council?
Because I wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on with the Pinelands, with Mr. Day, with where we are headed. There's no
But
sense
you
in
did nothing
learning.
about it.
Nelson,
I
you
brought it
were
up last
trying to
month.
portray Chicken Little where the sky's falling. You presented that in a closed session that night. You made it sound like everything that we've done, we got to start the process all over again. The 10 years that we've been doing this, it was all done in vain. That's why I asked, is there any
All I
legal
did
remedy
was
to it?
read back
And that
what
was also
you
the reason
told
why,
me.
Nelson, you're out of
Everything I
control.
said that
You
night
asked
was
me a
what
question.
you had
You're
told
asking a
me.
question, Nelson.
That's all
You're
it
asking
was.
a question, I'm giving an answer.
Now all of a sudden,
You're
it's a
asking
big
a
gypsy
question, I'm
wedding.
giving an answer.
I don't
You're
get it.
asking a question, I'm giving an answer. Okay? You asked why, and I told you why.
All I did was read back what
Your
you
information
said
was
to me.
incorrect. You made it sound like everything that was done by LRS was all done wrong, and we come to find
That
out,
was
no,
what
it
you
was
said.
not done wrong at all. Why
That
don't you
was
stop
what you
grandstanding?
said.
Get over
That
with
was
your
what you
grandstanding.
said.
Nelson, you are way out of control. You better cut down on the coffee,
It
or
sounds like
whatever
you're
it is that
losing
you're
it,
doing,
Mayor.
but you are way out of control.
You sound like you're losing it, bud.
No, you are,
Mr.
you have.
Mr. Mayor, you did say it was very serious at the same time.
Because, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, we were told by Mr. Dilge that night that we had 10 years of monitoring that we did, that was all totally done wrong. Okay?
Well,
Was that not
that's
said?
what the report says.
Okay,
that's what
so
the
we could
report
also
said.
revert back to a tape too, because that was
And that's
said.
what you said.
No, that's not what I said. Don't put
You
words in my
interpreted
mouth.
all this for me. I didn't understand
Nelson,
this stuff.
where are
I
you
walked into
going
that
with
meeting in the
this?
blind.
Why don't you just live your life in
What
peace? 'Cause
changed?
you're a conflict. You're a total conflict with yourself and everybody. You've been doing this for the last couple of years. You're not satisfied until you can fight with somebody. Why don't you just knock it off and grow up? You were
Sounds like
elected on
you're
this job.
Are
You
you
were elected
attacking
on
my
this job.
character again, Mayor?
Mr. Poe.
Are you
excuse me,
attacking
Mr.
my
Dilge,
character again?
Mr. Dilge, you were elected on this council to perform a job, to do what's best for the city, not to sit here and pick on people and come up with all this convoluted crap that you come up with.
Why did
You're
you
not
say all
always
those things if you
saying.
weren't going to hold to them? Why did you say it?
Mr. Day, I apologize. This was not supposed to be occurring here at this meeting tonight.
It's not a problem, Mayor. I'm happy to answer Councilman Dilge's questions.
I think I handled it in the best way. I brought the solicitor into this three-way telephone conference because Randy put together a very entailed, comprehensive report, his memorandum, and I'm very satisfied with what Randy did. It was nearly identical mirror to the 1 hour and 5 minute conversation that we did in fact have earlier last month. So I
I
don't have
make a
any
motion,
problems
we
with
open the
it.
presentation to the public for
There's
questions.
no reason to do that. You wouldn't,
Do I get a
Mr.
second?
Belge, there's no
Second.
reason to do that. Randy?
Can we vote it, please?
Mayor,
He
there's
doesn't control the meeting. There's no reason to do this.
a motion and a second to open it to the public.
Did we not want to get out of here at the meeting tonight at 9 o'clock? So apparently you want to try to make somebody look even more small,
So
okay?
do we go ahead now and open to the public?
You need to call the vote, Mayor.
Who made the motion? Was it Nelson?
It was Nelson, seconded by Ms. Owen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. I see no point to it.
All right,
Mr. Booth.
Mr. Cook would like to comment.
Members of council, having looked at the memo from Pinelands and the proposal from Mr. Dye's firm, there's going to be, I think, a few things you may want to keep in mind. One is, do you have any monitoring data subsequent to 2018, or looking at another way, what do you have from the last 2 years? It does seem a little strange that the tenor of this conversation has gone from, oh my goodness, there's a fair amount of concern, and this isn't stuff that I, stirred up, but that members of council had. And now, again, unfortunately, there seems to be a pattern of what is put in writing from Pinelands, which is the ultimate determinant decider of what you're going to be able to do or not be able to do, is much less optimistic than the verbal presentations from the firm. And it has been that way for a long time. And it may be that those verbal representations will finally bear fruit and come out. It may be that what Pinelands has said to you last year, and even in the filtered interpretation of what got said before, still some of those concerns seem to be there, that may continue. You may therefore want to consider, at least at the barest of minimum, put on the website, if there's engineering firms that are interested in doing the work going forward from here, then they have the opportunity to take a look at the information, review it. If they want to do a proposal, they can do that, and then you're able to make an informed decision. Because also, if you take a quick look at the DEP website regarding the site remediation fund, and remediation is the important word there, virtually all of those particular grants that are available for municipalities come with the obligation that the municipality is able to turn around and make that land redeveloped. That's the idea, because they want to take brownfields, and we think of those, the gas station, the dry cleaners, the landfill, and many of them are in far worse condition outside of the Pinelands, particularly. But the goal there is to turn it into something that's economically viable. That may not ever happen. I don't know that the state would ever try to claw back the money, but don't put yourselves in that position of running blind down the road and then finding out later that, it's 3 years from now or 4 years from now after the other work gets done, and now they're looking at you like, well, why didn't you ever redevelop it? Because it's an area that's not going to get redevelopment. It's too far off of Route 50. And so there's just a lot of those different things that need to be looked at. How much funds are still available from the SRF? How much funds does the city have? Because the Pinelands obviously knows that the city does have funds. So trying to do an economic hardship may be difficult. I'd love it if we got it for free, as long as we also knew that the plume that is stated in the Pinelands report isn't going to be a problem. And it may turn out that it isn't going to be. But when you have no data for the last 2 years, it's irresponsible to try to suddenly pretend that it isn't. It may turn out not to be. We would all hope that it is. But without that further information, you're not going to know that. And so there's just a lot of different pieces that, if the idea of tonight, and I don't know this, was to suddenly have a vote on going ahead with the proposal, I would recommend that you take a look at, if others out there are willing to take a look at it, then you're at least able to make a comparison. and then take it from there. And then as the governing body, you've made that decision. But otherwise, a quick decision tonight probably would not be perhaps the most prudent. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I summarize I think the citizen, Mr. Dye, has two questions. One is there more recent monitoring data in 2019 and 2020? And secondly, are there any conditions on these grants that have been received or will be applied for regarding redevelopment of the property?
Mr. Dye, do you happen to know that, question? That
Yes,
subject to, the application that we would, apply for, that the conditions would be that we have to redevelop the property? My understanding since day one, when we first hired you, was this is to just simply do the evaluation to find out if in fact there's anything that's there that's contaminated. We have come to discover, based upon our reports, that the reports are exactly what they are. It's outlined as to what is wrong with the landfill and the minimal amounts. I don't ever recall that it says this is contingent upon a redevelopment plan. Never heard that before.
Yes.
On the website.
I can speak to both questions. Number one, we don't have any data from any sampling that was done since the data referenced in the Pinelands memo. Just to be clear, what's referenced in 2008 in section 8 of the Pinelands memo, we pointed that out in our report, that the data gathered prior to our involvement for the Egyptes work is where the errors are in the groundwater levels. Okay, so we'll let that go again. So we don't have any data. The conditions, Mr. Pogue is right in most of the applications, and that's why I said that for this particular site, we're not eligible for remedial action funding. Any remedial action funding, which is when the dollars really kind of kick in, most of those grants are 25%, 50%, or 75% of the costs. We're engaged in 2 projects where we're involved in that right now, and we're filing the applications and getting the grant funds. What we're talking about here is the preliminary assessment, site investigation, remedial investigation. Those costs are provided to help municipalities along, and they are typically funded at 100%. And I do not believe, but I will get further clarification since Mr. Pogue asked the question, that they are subject to. I've been on the website, Mr. Pogue. I'm very familiar with the program.
It says 100%. It says remediation. That's all, Mr. Dye. That's all I'm going by. You may have other ways to make it work, and that's fine. But that's what it says.
Yeah, so I said remediation work is not funded. The remedial investigation, the site investigation, and the others are typically what's funded at 100%. And
The first thing is the preliminary stuff, and it says remediation plan. That's all I'm looking at. And again, you're the engineer and I'm not, so I'm just...
It's fine. Like I said, I will get clarification from the department, and the program has changed over the years. But the remedial investigation out here, and in my discussions with them, again, I've asked for a written response on the status and their thinking about eligibility. We need to get that. We need to get that information before you guys can make a decision. I understand that. So, and I'm sorry I don't have it right now.
And in response to Ms. Owen's question before, the only time that these agencies will put something in writing to you is when they're forced to, by way of being required to provide a decision. They're not going to give you an advisory opinion. They're not going to give you guidance. I mean, I can tell you that the discussion with Mr. Wenbrowski was very cordial and very free-flowing, and he answered every question that we posed. Will he put that in writing? I doubt it. They just don't do that.
I'd like to, Mr. Day, do you have anything further you want to say? Or Mr. Lafferty to wrap this up?
Unless there's any further questions, I don't have anything, Mayor.
No, I'm satisfied with what we discussed.
Okay, there's no other, Mr. Pogue had two comments in the chat window, but I think he put them in his discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Pogue?
Yeah, those aren't germane to this topic, Randy. Those are,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
they're separate pieces for, I'd rather not have to take public time on it, but if you guys can look at that, that would be good and go from there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other comments, Mr. Mayor.
Jeff, thanks for coming out. Appreciate your presentation. I think it was forthcoming, and there was much information gained from it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. I'll follow up as indicated.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Thank you.
You too, solicitor.
Good night.
Thank you.
We have some correspondence that we received from the DEP that they're looking to do a acquisition on 212 Route 50. I did see something. Block 59, Lot 5. It doesn't really say what the size of the property is.
Do we have that in our packet?
I just got this tonight, just like now.
It wasn't
No.
This thing that you just gave me right here in the state, because I asked you for it while you were.
Betsy, on Google Docs, I sent some additional information of just follow up on some things, if you want to check that.
I'd like to see it too.
Okay. There's no action we could take on this. They're just simply letting us know that they're looking to do a land acquisition over there. I really don't know the size of the property. But it's block 59, lot 5, if anyone's able to look that up to see what the size of the property is, but something tells me it's all swamp land, if it's where I'm thinking that it's at. We have the Robert Scarano driveway request. I believe that we've covered that. We have purchase of land estate of Oliver Wood. Judge, didn't get any paperwork on this one here. What is this all about?
Was that something that the solicitor sent out? I don't quite recall now.
Sorry, I was reading something. What's the question there?
State of Oliver Wood, number 3 on correspondence.
Oh, is this the letter from Mr. Coates?
I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know.
Yes, Mr. Lafferty, that's from you, from today. You sent it out.
Yeah, I got a letter today from Hal Coates, an attorney in Ocean City, who represents the representative of the state. And apparently there's this parcel of land, and I did have a telephone conversation with Mr. Coates when I told him to send this letter. He wants to know if the city of Estell Manor has any interest in purchasing this land. Apparently it's landlocked land, unusable. And I told him, I said, I'll advise council, but to be honest with you, council is selling unusable land, not buying. So I doubt that there would be an appetite, but I'm just communicating the offer itself.
I don't even think that we could entertain such an offer, Randy, because quite frankly, the only time you could do something like that, you would have to present the a public need to do that. And we're not allowed to do any speculating whether we could use it for later on. If we would purchase land, and there actually does in fact have to be a dedicated reason as to why we're doing that. You just don't buy land for because somebody asks you if you want to buy it. There's a lot of land that's for sale in town, but
Apparently, it's contiguous to land owned by Estell Manor. So if there were a legitimate purpose for consolidation with existing property or something, you might have an interest. I can't imagine you do. But
without seeing a tax map or anything, I'm not even wanting to discuss this any further. It's like it's a blindsided approach to what we're doing here. I see no reason to do anything if it turns out that maybe another adjoining property owner, Mr. Coates, can contact them and ask if they want it. Otherwise, you'll have to put a for sale sign and list it. It's the best I could say.
no, I just wanted to pass the correspondence along, that's all.
I would just, there's nothing to do at this point. We have ordinances on the agenda. What was the ordinance that we're supposed to be doing here, Judd?
Pretty sure that we have more.
I don't think that we do, but you have it on here. I'm just wondering
I
why.
just listed to see if there's anybody gonna bring something up or whatever.
Okay, so let's move down to, resolutions. We have resolution 33, an amendment to temporary budget to add capital funds. This would have to be done by a roll call, so, I make the necessary motion. Is there a second?
Okay, but this is to add 23,000 to the capital, because this goes in hand with number 34. If council doesn't do 33, we don't do 34, or vice versa.
Well, let me just say this. My understanding in dealing and talking with the state just this week, there is a LEAP grant program that's out there. If we were to do a shared service with another community, whether it be with the county, whether it be next door to Corbin City, whatever, we in fact actually could get a dump truck. Compliments of the state, just $10 million in a fund. It's gonna be on a first come, first serve. Don't hold my feet on the fire with this, but I believe that we would have to have the application in approximately a week or so, or maybe it's the end of this month. But, I will find out further. I'm supposed to be meeting with the representative. But if we have the ability to get $65,000-$70,000 from the state just to do a shared service agreement with another entity, I can't imagine why we wouldn't do this. That would be foolish on our part not to. Secondly, even if we were to order a truck this week, we're at this meeting here, by the time it goes into production, which Joe, I think you told me it's not gonna start until July, and we wouldn't get it delivered until November, why don't we wait and see? Because my understanding from the state is that we will know by mid-April whether we are eligible to receive this grant or not. So at this time, I would like to just simply hold. Does council feel the same way? Because I think it'd be the smart thing to do.
I'm already holding off on this until we hear from that grant, but
I
I
make a
am too, as
motion.
long as we get the information as soon as possible, so we can read over the stipulations of it also.
I will certainly send it to Judd for all the council to have it. And keep in mind that if we have to do an application, that is most likely gonna have to be done by resolution. And we may have to call for a special meeting so we can get the grant in. It'll be very necessary to do that
Just need a motion table 33 and 34.
at this time, yes.
I make a motion to table resolution 33-2021 and 34-2021 to our next meeting.
I'll second. I think this should be done by roll call.
Mr. Dilch,
Yes.
Mr. Olson,
yes.
Miss Owen,
Yes,
Miss Sparks,
Yes.
Mayor Benesky.
Yes. We have 35, 2021 to cancel outstanding checks. Judd, usually in the past, it's always been, you put the names of the entities of who didn't cash their check.
Yeah.
We're canceling checks that I have no idea who these checks are even outstanding to.
Well, I think one of them's to the state, and I don't recall. I went down them before. I mean, they've been on our books for quite some time. So
Can we hold this until the next meeting, and could you please be sure to let us know who the entities are that have not cashed their checks?
yes, I will do it.
Especially if it's the state, it may come back to bite us later on, and then they're gonna say, how come we didn't pay it, or whatever. I think
$3 check to them. So
that's $3. Okay, well, they're not gonna miss that.
right. All right. So
All right.
we'll just hold off on that.
We're gonna table 35.
you have to make a
36.
motion, right?
I'll make a motion to table 35 as well. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?